Now, I know Game Week 11 has only just kicked off, but in today's video, we're going to be running through my top transfer targets ahead of FPL Game Week 12 and give you a little bit of food for thought over the international break. Now, as always, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are on that road to 25,000 subscribers, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. So do keep, obviously, liking the videos, commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. It is massively appreciated. As always, with our transfer targets videos, I like to take a look at the projected data provided by 1105 for the next 5 to 6 game weeks. I do think it gives you a really good barometer, especially when you're looking to obviously bring in certain teams, target certain clubs, and of course, look for where maybe weeks you might go with the free hit, triple captain, stuff like that. It is genuinely a really, really useful tool. So if you want to go check it out, there will be a link to their website in the description. Take a look then at the left-hand side first. It is going to be the projected goal numbers for the next 5 game weeks. We can see here, Liverpool's numbers are absolutely ridiculous. And what we're going to do in today's video is run through kind of the Liverpool assets that are obviously coming up in conversation at the moment. The Liverpool, the Szoboszlais, the Van Dijk, the Gakpos, all of these players, we're going to be running through them, and I'm going to give you probably who I would be looking to select ahead of game week 12. City have got a pretty mixed bag over the next few weeks, and I definitely think if, we're not going to get a blank or a double game week announced before, of course, the game week 19, then I definitely think the next few weeks could be a week where maybe you look at potentially going for a triple captain or potentially a free hit. Obviously, looking at the weeks where Liverpool have good fixtures in 12, 14, and 16 for the projected goals, could be weeks where, of course, you do pivot away from Erling Haaland, where, of course, he has more difficult fixtures, and go to Mohamed Salah. That is the route that you might, of course, combat potentially going there and obviously getting in the pretty good fixtures for Mohamed Salah and having him as a potential captaincy option. In terms of the triple captain options as well, if you were to bring in Salah, obviously game week 14, very high projected goals for those weeks, and game week 13 for Manchester City and game week 15 also look pretty decent in terms of potential weeks where you maybe could go for a triple captaincy as well on Erling Haaland. Now, the numbers over the next few weeks do get a little bit more difficult for Arsenal, but I still think Bukayo Saka is going to be a very, very good investment. I spoke about him in length, and one of the main reasons that I did go for him was, of course, his multiple avenues to points that he does have. He is one of those players that just can, of course, open up the games, go for different options, penalties, DEFCON, bonus. We're seeing a wide variety of them for him right now within the game. So I still think Arsenal attack, especially Bukayo Saka, is going to be worth taking a look at. Chelsea, they've obviously got another fixture, a good one in game week 12 after the international break. Game week 13 is maybe if you've quite stacked in on Chelsea, maybe you've got 2 or 3 assets, could be a week where, of course, you do look to free hit, get them out for that week, and potentially look at some other alternative assets as well. That is a week where Arsenal and Chelsea face off against each other, so if you're not feeling confident that there's going to be big results in there, it definitely could be a week where maybe you do look elsewhere. Of course, you'd be stacking in on Manchester City players, so maybe like a gamble on like a Foden potentially, maybe their defense as well for that week. Obviously, Liverpool and Salah for game week 13 as well could also be maybe a route that you do go and look at as well as another potential option. Palace's numbers continue to look pretty steady across the board, as do Brighton's. So your Minters, your Sars, your Matetas, all going to be pretty steady, decent value as well. Bournemouth, again, are heading back into a nice run of fixtures after a tricky few weeks, I would say, in terms of their fixtures. They've now got a decent run, so I do think your likes of your Semenyo, they're still going to be worth the holding on to, in my personal opinion, right now. Because, like I said, the fixtures do take a little bit of a big upswing, in the next few weeks. And definitely worth, obviously, going and potentially, just keeping those players for that period of time. Manchester United as well. We're going to talk about Bryan Mbeumo and Bruno Fernandes in today's video. But again, another club that I would be definitely looking to invest in. Their fixtures are great all the way up until game week 22. And as you can see over the next few weeks, some really steady kind of numbers from the 11-5 projected model as well. Switching our focus over to the clean sheet percentages then, is it any surprise to see Arsenal top of that list? I know today they did concede 2, but I said that is going to happen at some point this season. Arsenal are going to go into a game where, they do concede goals. It's not like they're going to keep a clean sheet every single week. However, the probabilities here are still very, very decent for Arsenal over that period. So I do still believe that they are going to be a very good investable defense. If you haven't already, go and get Gabriel. I know today it wasn't the most ideal thing, obviously conceding that second goal, not hitting defensive contributions, no clean sheet. However, they still limited Sunderland to very few opportunities within the game, and Sunderland still accumulated less than 1 XG during that game. And I guarantee when we look through the week at the top sides for projected goals for this week, we're still going to see, Arsenal still with very high projections. When, of course, we look at the XG conceded, I guarantee they will still be the top defense. Don't let one bad performance or kind of, 2 goals slip your focus that they are, now this rubbish defense. They're still absolutely incredible in my personal opinion. A side that I think a lot of us are probably going to be looking at, and a player we're probably going to be looking at as well, is going to be Virgil van Dijk. Some great numbers coming up for Liverpool. Obviously, he's been a bit of a DEFCON beast over the past few weeks as well. So again, definitely worth obviously considering him as a potential option. I think he's got a strike rate of around 60% for defensive contributions, which is very good to see indeed. Again, very similar to the Bournemouth attack, we're also seeing pretty steady numbers for their clean sheet percentages as well. So if you have got Senesi, definitely worth giving him a few more weeks as well, with 36, 35 and a 38% across the board as well there. In terms of some other sides here, I think everybody's kind of just sort of around the similar-ish level, to be honest. I would say Palace, obviously, for the next few weeks, still worth investing in. Game week 16 is where you want to obviously look to get rid of all their assets. After that, though, all these other clubs, I probably wouldn't be really investing into. I think Michael Keane's an okay option at 4.5 million. I know he got his goal today. I had him. I was very, very happy with that. Didn't get anywhere near DEFCON, though, which is a little bit concerning. However, the numbers are still pretty steady. So if you are looking for a player at 4.5 who's going to play very good minutes, is a threat from set pieces, and can hit defensive contributions, I think it's like now 1 in 3 games for Michael Keane, then he's not a bad option at that 4.5 million price bracket. Like I said, that is the data from 11 to 5. If you want to go and check out their amazing website, I will leave a link in the description. Now let's dive into some player picks ahead of FPL Game Week 12. Okay, let's dive into today's first pick then. Obviously, the man of the early kickoff, it was Mbeumo. Another goal for him. His underlying data has been absolutely sensational so far this year. He currently finds himself third for non-penalty XGI within the league. That is very, very good to see from him. I was really worried about Bryan Mbeumo when he did move to Manchester United. Would he still be a very good FPL asset? Because, of course, one of the main appeals was the penalties that he did have, alongside, of course, his open play threat at Brentford. No penalties, however, has continued to produce the goods in terms of his open play numbers. 5 goals for him so far this season. Like I said, the third best player in the league for non-penalty XGI, only behind Erling Haaland and Jean-Philippe Mateta. Obviously, you kind of factor in where those two players are at right now. Haaland is just bagging in every single game. Mateta is just an XG merchant as well. Already picked himself up a hat-trick so far this season as well. So what you've got there is 2 players that are doing exceptionally well, and Bryan Mbeumo is kind of fitting that narrative as well. I would say, though, this is the big thing and the big caution I would have around picking up Bryan Mbeumo, is he does, of course, go off to AFCON. Now, that will probably happen after the Game Week 16 fixture against Bournemouth. However, if you look at that run there, Everton, Palace, West Ham, Wolves and Bournemouth, that is a very, very good run. A lot of attackable fixtures across that period. So if you've got, a short-term punt or maybe a short-term mindset, I do think Bryan Mbeumo could be a very, very good pickup, to be honest. Obviously, we get the AFCON kind of transfers as well. We are replenished in Game Week 16 with those AFCON transfers. So, like I said, if you want to pick him up for a short-term punt over the next few weeks, targeting obviously those great games against Everton, West Ham and Wolves, I definitely think that could be a plausible strategy to go for, because like I said, when you watch Manchester United, he does look like their best player on the pitch. His non-penalty XGI is looking absolutely fantastic as well. But like I said, for me, I like to pick players with a little bit more of a longer term view, but maybe with the AFCON situation and getting that replenishment up to 5 transfers anyway, maybe we could just go for a more short-sighted punt in Bryan Mbeumo, get those transfers stocked up, then of course just take him out when he goes off to AFCON. That very easily could be a very plausible play. And I think if you are looking for a Manchester United midfielder in the short term, then Bryan Mbeumo definitely could fill that gap 100%. However, I'm going to have to talk about him, and I seem to be bringing him up in every single video at the moment. It's Bruno Fernandes, for very, very good reason. This is, for me, if you want a player who is going to be a very easy set and forget. He is scoring very good at the moment. Not like big numbers, but just consistency across the board, right? It's just a lot of kind of, these smaller scores, but they're going to add up, right? He's only 10 behind Bryan Mbeumo, and everybody is raving about him. Only 10 points behind him. You factor in the 2 penalty misses, you factor in the games where he's got extremely close to defensive contributions, that would be extremely tight. Probably would have Bruno out ahead as well. And what we're seeing from Bruno Fernandes, and this is one of the main things that I've tried to target this year within FPL, is those players that have multiple avenues to points, right? Bryan Mbeumo just purely has, one side of corners, and he has his good underlying non-penalty XGI. Great. He's got the open play threat. Great. I love to see it. Some corners. Great. But then you compare that to Bruno Fernandes, who has penalties, corners, free kicks, baseline bonus, and defensive contributions. All of these things will add up over the course of the season and will probably lead to an asset that, yes, might not get the big glamorous scores. However, will just continually tick along as the weeks do progress. And Manchester United have a honestly unbelievable run of fixtures. Go and look at it for yourself, all the way up until game week 22. During that period, in between game week 12 and 19, they play Wolves twice as well. So, the worst team in the league right now, they get to play them twice. Why would you not want a slice of that pie? Why would you not sign up for that little bit of action anyway? Bruno, for me as well, has proved his worth in the side. Two assists from 2 corners in 2 weeks for him. Again, it is all just about these players that have the multiple routes to points for me. It is honestly FPL gold, and definitely something I think a lot more FPL managers need to be looking into as potential routes to points. Rather than just focusing on the players that are scoring well, find a little bit of reasoning why you're picking these players and what's the underlying cause of them doing well in the points. And you'll see with Bruno Fernandes, it's because the points are just coming in from every single direction. Some weeks it'll just be defensive contributions and a clean sheet, so he'll pick up a 5 there. Some weeks it'll be an assist. Some weeks it'll be an assist with bonus points. Some weeks it'll be the goal with the bonus points. Some weeks it will be a penalty goal. Like, this is what I want from my players. I want just points coming in from every single direction, and Bruno Fernandes has that. Now, I made a bold claim last week saying that Bruno would outscore Bryan Mbeumo before he heads off to AFCON, right? Bruno is slightly ahead. Not after this week. Obviously, Bryan won this week 7-5. But over the course of it, it's been 2-5 performances for Bruno Fernandes, taking him to 10. And Bryan Mbeumo is sat on 9. So it is extremely close between the two of them. However, I'm still hedging my bets. I'm still saying Bruno outscores Bryan Mbeumo all the way up till AFCON. Please, Bryan, don't hurt me anymore. I'm not saying Bryan Mbeumo is a bad pick, by the way. I still think he's absolutely class, and I have been looking at potential ways that I might go with a double pivot of Manchester United midfielders because the fixtures over the next few weeks are ridiculously good. I am just saying I do prefer Bruno Fernandes, and like I said, he does save you a transfer as well when, of course, we do get those AFCON transfers, because you've not got to take him out because he isn't off to that tournament as well. I think another big key point that goes for both Bryan and Bruno as well is we are heading up to this extremely busy festive period, right? People who've never played FPL or don't understand this period of the year, it gets messy, right? Game week 14 is a midweek FPL game week round. I guarantee there'll be surprise benches. What you want during that period is guys that are the first names on the team sheet and are guaranteed pretty much close to 90 minutes. I can guarantee that with Bruno and Bryan Mbeumo, right? Other players from other clubs with European football, Carabao Cup, it's going to be a little bit more dicey. But with these guys, I would definitely say their minutes are very, very decent and very secured. So another reason to, of course, invest into that Manchester United midfield if you haven't already. Before we head into the next set of players, I want to talk about my new Discord server that I am offering up to people. This is the FPL cartel that I do run with my good friend Golden Goal Fantasy Football. Of course, if you want to go and check it out for yourself, I will leave a link in the description. I'll also make it the pinned comment as well. We are offering people a 30-day free trial to come and check out our service. As you can see from the scroller in the top, you get access to an exclusive podcast, Discord, a private Discord where we're helping people with their teams, answering questions. You'll also get access as well to a member-only mini league as well, with obviously prizes up for grabs in that one. So go and check it out. Like I said, it is completely free for 30 days. If you don't enjoy it, you can cancel at any time. So yeah, 30 days free just to come and chat to us in the Discord. Why would you not take full advantage of that one? Like I said, link in the description for that. Okay, let's move on then to my next player. It is going to be the star boy. It is going to be Bukayo Saka. It's felt like weeks this big return has been coming from him, and he definitely delivered today, hitting those defensive contributions, taking away all 3 bonus, and a beautiful goal in the game against Sunderland. It's been coming because the big chances have been there. The underlying data has been there. It's been so frustrating owning Bukayo Saka, but I'm so glad that he managed to go and deliver the business today. Now, some people are probably going to be asking me, is it worth buying Bukayo Saka in right now? Is it worth going for him? And I think you've probably got 2 avenues of thought right now. Do you go for Bukayo Saka with the next 2 fixtures probably not being the easiest? I think they'll probably win the Tottenham game. They'll win the North London derby. Tottenham don't look great at the moment. Chelsea, again, it's a bit of an iffy one, but after that, again, the fixtures do really pick up, and we saw that on the 11FI data as well. The next 2 are a little bit more difficult. However, game week 14, 15, 16 and 17 all look very, very appetizing fixtures for Arsenal. Definitely could see them, scoring a few in those games. And you could see a guy like Saka being involved in them. And again, it goes back to this point of trying to find these players that have multiple avenues to points. And again, Bukayo Saka is one of those players that does, again, just have those multiple avenues to points. He's got the penalty share. He has corner share. He obviously has beautiful open play threat. Good for bonus. And now we're starting to see him pick up some defensive contributions as well. Sign me up for that. Genuinely sign me up for that. I think a lot more people will, of course, be shifting to Bukayo Saka this game week as well. The fixtures, like I said, the next 2, it is a little bit iffy. However, I still do believe he's an absolutely fantastic asset. The problem that I think we're going to find is people now are going to be in a situation where they either go Saka, a United mid, and then kind of, the rest of the midfield's fairly stacked with kind of those mid-price 6 millions and obviously Semenyo, or do you maybe dash the Saka, dash the Bruno, dash the Mbeumo and go and get Mohamed Salah? I think that is the big debate that is going to happen over the next few weeks, especially given how good Liverpool's fixtures are, and especially if he has a great performance against Liverpool tomorrow. I think that is where there is going to be a big shift in mentality. So I think a lot of people will maybe wait and see how Salah gets on before, of course, making this move to Bukayo Saka. But for me personally, I still think I would probably prefer that Saka and Mbeumo or Saka-Bruno midfield combination rather than just putting all my eggs into the Mohamed Salah basket. I think you can probably get to Salah for the better weeks with the free hit rather than kind of ripping apart your team structure and, of course, using up vital transfers across this busy festive period. So I do feel like maybe the free hit approach is going to be the better way to go and get Salah. I feel like Saka and Bruno or Saka and Mbeumo definitely could cover off whatever Mohamed Salah does during this period. And I think it leads quite nicely onto, of course, talking about Liverpool players today. So I've used Fantasy Football Scout, as you can see in the bottom left, to basically correlate all the Liverpool players that are kind of going to come up in conversation over the international break. Of course, we saw with the 11FI data, they are the best team over the next few weeks for projected goals as well. And that's not just on the 11FI data as well. It's also on the Solio and Rob T projections as well. That they're also predicting Liverpool just to be the best attack over the next few game weeks as well. So I've ordered this by expected goal involvement per, non-penalty. We can also see points per start, their goal involvements, their points, their defensive contribution percentage per start as well. So 60% means that out of, say, if Van Dijk plays 10 games, he's managed to hit in 6 of them. So that gives you a rough barometer of what's going off. There's a massive firework display as well also happening outside my house, so I do apologise. But this is kind of, I think, all the Liverpool players that I think people are going to be looking at, right? Let's continue with the Salah theme. Like I said, 14.2 million. You're going to need to captain this guy, right? You really, really do. But his underlying data has started to trend in the right direction. He has still pretty decent points per start, but they are absolutely nowhere near what Erling Haaland has been putting up, right? Haaland's currently at 9.2 points per start. Look at the difference. It's a massive, massive difference. So trying to find a way to cram Mohamed Salah in is going to take a lot of sacrifices. Number one sacrifice, like we already ran through, is you're probably going to have to ditch that more kind of, I would say, premium midfield of a Saka and of course a Bruno or an Mbeumo, and probably a Semenyo on that list as well, which I don't think a lot of people are going to want to do, to go and get Mohamed Salah in, because it isn't the same Salah as we saw last season. Or the other route is go and get rid of Erling Haaland. But given the form that he's in, I just don't think I can see people making that switch. There's got to be a big, maybe narrative switch in that Manchester City-Liverpool game. Maybe Haaland picks up an injury, or maybe Mohamed Salah has an absolute barnstormer for me to really justify making that move kind of worth it, in my personal opinion. I think if you've still got the free hit left, that might be the better play, trying to find a free hit route to Salah, rather than, of course, looking to just bring him in with transfers over the next few weeks. Cody Gakpo, his minutes are a little bit dicey at the moment, so probably would avoid for me. However, he does have the best XGI not per 90, but he does actually have the best XGI per 90 and best non-penalty XGI for Liverpool as well right now. However, given those dicey minutes, definitely would probably avoid him. Same goes with Ekitike as well. The minutes just are a little bit dicey at the moment. Isak as well, I think is meant to be back after the international break. So again, probably would avoid. Dominic Szoboszlai is a really interesting player. Points per start have been pretty consistent at 4.3. And I do feel if you are looking for a steady Eddie, maybe kind of like a Caicedo, a Rice, Szoboszlai is probably going to be that. As you can see, defensive contributions in 40% of his games so far. However, the games where he has been hitting it is the games where he's either slotted in at DM or has been moved to right back. That is where he's managed to pick up those defensive contributions. And I do worry that when I'm paying 6.6 million, my all of a sudden 10 or Cam then starts to go at right back. That would concern me and probably put me off a little bit of going for Dominic Szoboszlai. However, like I said, he is Liverpool's probably best player so far this season. The underlying numbers are okay for 6.6 million. And of course, that nice added bonus of defensive contributions. It isn't the end of the world maybe if he does slot in at right back, because like I said, he could just come away with a 5-pointer, and they do add up over the course of the season. But I'm still a little bit unsure about paying 6.6 million for basically a sort of Caicedo at the moment. Really, that's how it feels. Caicedo probably with better underlying data. He is, however, taking some free kicks, and you know how I do feel about players that do have multiple avenues to points. He is starting to ease his way into me. Free kicks, corners, DEFCON. I think if he was guaranteed to play in the 10, I would really, really be up for it. But yeah, I'm still undecided on Dominic Szoboszlai. I am warming to the idea of it. I just don't know if I can buy a player myself that can, of course, slot in at right back. We'll say all this and come game week 12 deadline, this man will definitely be sat in my side. But like I said, could be one of potentially the unearthing gems that could have the multiple avenues to points. Like I said, with some free kicks, great free kick ability right now. Corner share as well. DEFCON. Like, he is starting to do some of the things that I do look for in players. So maybe if he has a great performance against Manchester City, definitely could wingle his way back in. Wirtz, I mean, 0 goal involvements in the Premier League. I'm just not going to go back there. I already owned him earlier in the season. I got scolded. I got burned. I'm personally not going to go for it. Gravenberch, I think, is in a very similar boat to Caicedo, where he's just massively overachieving on his underlying numbers. As you can see here, 4 goal involvements, 1.14 XGI non-penalty. It's an absolutely ridiculous overachievement. And I think the reason that him, Gravenberch, and Rice have been doing so well is because their baseline bonus is always good. So when they get that goal, they're usually going to just sling themselves to the top, throw in some defensive contributions across the way as well, and they will just tick along very, very nicely. However, for me personally, I wouldn't be recommend bringing in Gravenberch. Like, I just don't think it's personally for me worth it. So I probably wouldn't go for it, in my opinion anyway. Interestingly here, obviously, a lot of people have been speaking about Virgil van Dijk and his heavy, obviously, DEFCON percentage starts. 60% of his games he's managed to hit it, but only 10% behind him is Konate. So in half of Konate's games, he has managed to do it. He's also got better XGI non-penalty as well. So this is making me think, maybe at 5.4, Konate potentially could be going a little bit under the radar here. Maybe he could be a pickup that people are potentially undervaluing at 5.4 million. So maybe if you've not got the budget to go and get yourself a Virgil van Dijk, maybe Konate could cover him off, because the defensive contribution percentages don't look too dissimilar. He's actually locking in better XGI so far. So maybe Konate could be that guy. However, I do feel with, of course, again, I'm bringing it back to the winter period. I'm bringing it back to the amount of games games that are going to be taking place, I do still feel like Van Dijk plays every single minute of the games. And we've seen him in the Champions League. He has been an absolute menace from some set plays as well. So I'm hoping he can nod one of those in the Premier League when, of course, I do eventually go and bring him in. And his defensive contribution numbers have been exceptionally good so far this season. So if I was to rank the Liverpool assets right now, I would probably put Van Dijk number 1, Salah number 2, and Szoboszlai number 3 is where I probably would be at. But like I said, Szoboszlai is warming up and definitely could work his way further up the scale. Like I said, he is starting to open himself up to a player that does have multiple opportunities for points, So maybe that is where something, maybe I've got to have a little bit of a rethink around him. Yes, he might play right back at some times, but getting a guy in that can hit those defensive contributions, takes free kicks, takes corners, could be a really, really good asset at 6.6 with some great fixtures coming up for Liverpool. I would, though, say that Liverpool aren't the best side for expected goals from set plays. So even having the set plays taker for that side maybe might be a little bit of a redundant thing if, of course, they aren't creating quality opposition, quality chances from it. So again, this is what I'm kind of doing with my own head with Dominic Szoboszlai. I'm like, yes, he's got this, but then they don't do this, and he hits DevCon, but he's also going to then slot in at right back. There's just so much going with him. Same goes with Salah as well. There's so many sacrifices that have to go into place to, of course, slot Mohamed Salah within your side as well. So there is a lot of kind of thought that has to go into those moves. I do feel like the easy moves are going to be bringing in Van Dijk or Konate for me. Those guys can easily just work themselves in, and there hasn't got to be, like this big reconstruction of my side or potentially challenging some of my personal views around certain players. So I do feel like they're going to be the top options for me. Let me know in the comments which way you are potentially leaning, of course, this week on Liverpool assets. Who has caught your eye? Who are you going to be going for this game week? Any dilemmas as well, get them in the comments, or what you can do, like I said, is come and check out the FPL cartel. We've got a free 30-day free trial, so come and check it out. Ask us any questions about your team, get your team reviewed on the deadline streams as well, get access to our podcasts, and of course the mini league prizes as well. That is going to conclude today's FPL Game Week 12 video. Make sure, like I said, you are liking, subscribing, all that good stuff, and the best of luck for Game Week 12.